One night. One hotel bar. One woman who made me forget what it felt like to be invisible. Then, she was gone before morning. No note. No goodbye. Just the taste of her still on my lips. And now, 3 months later, she walks into my classroom. Not as a stranger, but as a parent. My student's mother. And she looks at me like she remembers exactly how I sound when I say her name. I should look away. I don't. Because the truth is, that night we ruined each other. And if anyone finds out, it won't just cost us our reputations. It will cost us everything. And the worst part? She knows that. I know that. And yet, we're both a second away from making the same mistake twice. Part 1. I only realized it was her when she walked into my classroom for the parent-teacher conference. Right on time. Dark coat. That same unshakable confidence that hushes a room without effort. The second our eyes met, my pulse flatlined for a beat. Because 3 months earlier, this woman had caught me staring at her across a dim hotel bar. She had held my gaze, then crossed the room like gravity had shifted in her favor, a slow, knowing curve to her lips. Careful, she had murmured, voice low enough to feel private even in a crowd. Keep looking at me like that, and I'll think you want something dangerous. I laughed. That laugh ushered in 4 hours of conversation that erased everyone else in the room. We claimed a shadowed corner table. Our talk started safe. Then Victoria let the mask slip. The first time she said my name, it was slow, deliberate, like she was tasting something rare. She told me about her divorce. Not the polished version, but the brutal one. The nights she cried in the shower so her daughter wouldn't hear. The way trust shatters so completely you forget what being whole feels like. I told her things I'd never said out loud. How teaching feels like pouring your soul into hands that will forget you by next year. How lonely it gets caring fiercely for kids who aren't yours while your own life stalls somewhere in the background. She didn't offer platitudes. She just listened. With eyes that understood the weight exactly. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. We stopped checking the time. Stopped pretending this was casual. Our calves brushed under the table. Neither of us pulled back. The contact burned quietly, a current sliding up my spine. The air shifted. Words slowed. Last call came too soon. In the elevator, as we ascended to our respective rooms, the silence pressed in. I could feel her beside me. Close enough that every small movement registered. She said my name again. Softer this time. Almost a question. Can I ask you something? I nodded. She watched the numbers above the door before speaking. When you said teaching makes you feel lonely. Her voice dropped. Did you mean that? The question caught me off guard. More than I should have admitted to a stranger, I said, a quiet huff of laughter escaping. She smiled faintly. Good, she said. Because I said things tonight I don't usually tell people either. The elevator slowed. When the doors opened on her floor, she stepped out, then paused. Turned back. Do you want to keep talking? She asked. Simple question. Yet not simple at all. I hesitated just long enough to understand I wasn't going to say no. So I stepped out and followed her. A minute later, her sweet door clicked shut behind us. For a moment, neither of us moved. She set her keys on the counter. Then looked at me. I should probably go, I said softly. But I didn't move. And neither did she. Something warm and reckless passed between us. The same understanding we'd been circling all night. I took one step closer. She didn't retreat. Her breath caught, just slightly. That was all it took. She closed the distance. The first kiss was careful. Searching. The second devoured me, my back hitting the wall hard enough to knock the air from my lungs. Her laugh broke against my mouth, half surprise, half triumph. Her fingers slid into my hair, tightening just enough to pull a sound from me I didn't recognize as my own. My hands found her waist, then lower, dragging her flush against me. Soon, clothes became obstacles. We shed them between kisses that turned sharper, deeper, hungrier. Her breath hitched when my mouth found her neck. She arched into me, whispering something low, filthy, and tender all at once. The bed caught us in a tangle of heat and urgency. Her nails raked my back. My name broke from her lips, this time like a plea. Every touch felt like recognition, like we'd been waiting for this without knowing it. Afterward, breathless laughter slipped out whenever one of us moved and realized we weren't finished yet. We weren't careful after that. Her thighs locked around me, pulling me closer. The heat of her, the way she shuddered and held on when release hit. Hard, blinding, inevitable. Eventually the room went still. The kind of stillness that only comes after everything has burned itself out. She lay beside me, hair spread across the pillow, one arm resting loosely over my stomach, like she hadn't decided to let go yet. Outside, the city moved in slow streaks of light across the ceiling. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then she shifted slightly, looking at me with a focus that felt like she was memorizing something she wasn't sure she'd see again. "You're checking out early tomorrow, right?" she asked softly. 8:30 flight, I said. She hummed softly, thoughtful. Her fingers traced a slow line along my arm. "Breakfast then," she said. I glanced at her. A small smile curved her mouth, sleepy, conspiratorial. "We can do breakfast at the downstairs cafe," she proposed. "Before your flight." The idea felt strangely right. Like a quiet continuation of something neither of us wanted to end yet. "Yeah," I said. "I'd like that." She held my gaze a moment longer, that same unreadable softness in her eyes, then nodded once. "Good." Her head settled against my shoulder. Lying there, neither of us said the obvious. This wasn't just a mistake. It was something we hadn't known we were starving for. Until now. Her breathing slowed within minutes. Sleep claiming her easily. I stayed awake longer. Long enough to know I didn't want the morning to come too quickly. Sometime near dawn, I must have drifted off. When I woke, the room was quiet. Too quiet. The other side of the bed was cold. No note. No message. Just an empty pillow and the faint trace of her perfume. Downstairs, the cafe was already open. I waited longer than I meant to. She never came. And now, 3 months later, she stood in my classroom doorway, looking at me like she remembered everything. The air between us crackled again. And this time, there was nowhere to hide. Part 2. The parent-teacher conference ended like they always do. Polite smiles. Measured compliments. 2 adults performing the quiet choreography of pretending this was only about grades. Her daughter, Emily, was doing well. Strong essays. Sharp instincts in discussions. Victoria listened attentively. Asked thoughtful questions. Nodded in all the right places. If anyone had passed the doorway, they would have seen nothing unusual. Just a teacher doing their job. Just a parent checking on her daughter. Except every time our hands brushed passing papers across the desk, something sparked, quick, electric, gone before either of us acknowledged it. Professional. Careful. Controlled. She stood first when the meeting ended. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was calm, polite, exactly what it should be. But when our eyes met for half a second too long, something older flickered there. Recognition. Memory. Then she slipped on her coat and stepped into the hallway. The door clicking shut behind her. And suddenly the classroom felt smaller. I stayed seated, staring at the empty doorway, letting my pulse settle. Because 3 facts had just rearranged my entire week. First, the woman I'd spent one reckless, unforgettable night with 3 months ago was Victoria, Emily's mother. The resemblance made sense now. Second, she was listed on the upcoming field trip. Parent chaperone. And third, Mr. Dalton was on that trip too. The same Dalton who, 2 months earlier, had filed a complaint about my unprofessional classroom conduct because I'd let a debate run 5 minutes past the bell. It hadn't gone anywhere. But since then, he'd watched me like he was waiting for something real to report. A knock sounded against the doorframe. "Hey, survived conferences?" I looked up. Jensen leaned in, already smiling. "Barely." He stepped inside, flipping casually through the permission forms on my desk. "Brace yourself for next week," he said. "Trips are always chaos." Then he paused. "Oh, and the board's cracking down this year." I looked up. "Cracking down? On what?" "Everything." He shrugged. "After the Miller thing?" "Administration's paranoid." I remembered. A teacher at another campus. Seen having drinks with a parent after a fundraiser. Nothing had happened. But the rumor alone had ended the teacher's contract before the semester was over. Jensen set the papers down. Principal said they're not tolerating anything that even looks inappropriate between parents and faculty. A faint grin. Optics are everything. He headed back into the hallway, leaving the room quiet again. I sat there a moment longer. The faculty handbook was in my desk drawer. I didn't need to open it. Relationships with parents didn't lead to warnings. They led to termination. Immediate. Clean. Permanent. I leaned back, closing my eyes briefly. Now that I knew who Victoria was, avoiding her should have been simple. Except the trip schedule was already finalized. I checked it again that afternoon. Each page made it worse. 3 days. 30 students. 4 teachers. 2 parent chaperones. One of whom was Victoria. The one parent who had laughed against my mouth in a hotel room and made me feel less alone than anyone had in years. We'd be on the same bus. Same hotel floor. Same dinner rotation. She was a professional landmine with perfect cheekbones. The final trip meeting took place on Thursday after school. It should have been a routine thing. Until the door opened and she walked in. Conversations softened without anyone meaning them to. She carried herself the same way I remembered, quiet confidence that shifted a room without asking. She took an empty seat near the middle. Dalton sat 2 chairs away. I caught the moment his gaze moved from her to me, then back again. Slow. Thoughtful. I looked down at the itinerary. When the meeting ended, small clusters formed near the door. I stayed where I was, stacking papers that didn't need stacking. Trying not to look up. But I felt it anyway. That quiet awareness. I glanced up. She was watching me. Just for a moment. That same steady gaze from the bar. Then someone called her name. She turned. And the moment disappeared into conversation. 3 days. What could possibly go wrong? Part 3. On the first day of the school trip, the buses pulled out just after sunrise. The engine settled into a steady, low thrum that vibrated up through the seats. I stood at the front for the first 10 minutes out of habit, scanning the students for trouble that hadn't started yet. Then I sat 2 rows ahead of her. I hadn't planned it. That was the problem. Nothing about this trip had been planned with her in mind. Yet every choice felt shaped around her gravity, even as I tried to ignore it. I didn't turn around. I was aware of her in the same way you're aware of heat before you touch it. Constant. Quiet. Unavoidable. Miss Carter, can you check this worksheet? A student behind me asked. I stood automatically, turning halfway into the aisle, stepping back. But to reach the student, I had to stand beside Victoria's seat. Close. Too close for how narrow the aisle actually was. Victoria shifted slightly, angling her body just enough to give me space. It wasn't enough. I could feel the warmth of her through the thin space between us. I leaned forward to look at the worksheet. Explained something to the student. Answered the question. But I couldn't tell you what I said. Because all of my awareness had collapsed into one point. Her. The faint scent of her shampoo. Clean, familiar. Her sleeve grazed my forearm when the bus swayed, slow, lingering. The intoxicating scent of her shampoo taking me back to that hotel night when I'd buried my face in her hair while she came undone beneath me. She didn't move away. Got it? I asked the student. Yeah. I straightened. For a second, neither of us moved. She exhaled quietly through her mouth. A small, knowing sound. Like she felt it too. Then, Miss Carter. Someone else called out. Dalton. He was 2 seats behind Victoria. I stepped away from Victoria immediately. Turned to him. Yeah? I answered. He gestured vaguely down the aisle. Just making sure everything's under control. It is. I managed. He nodded. But his eyes flicked once, briefly, past me. To her. Then back. I sat down again. Didn't turn around. Didn't look back. Some minutes later, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're making this harder than it needs to be. It read. I didn't move. Didn't look at her. Then another message. He's always watching you. She said. I exhaled slowly. Typed back before I could overthink it. And yet here you are, texting me. I told her. 3 dots appeared almost instantly. You think that's the problem? She texted back, signing it off with a winking emoji. I swallowed. I stared at the screen, then stared resolutely ahead. The hotel check-in that first day was chaotic. Names called. Students already trying to renegotiate room assignments. It gave me something to focus on. Something safe. By the time the last door closed and the hallway quieted, I hadn't spoken to Victoria once. Not directly. Not properly. Which should have felt like control. It didn't. It felt like pressure. Building. I found her later without meaning to. Or maybe I meant to. As the stairwell door clicked shut behind me, there she was. Her eyes lifted when she heard me. No surprise. Just heat. You're avoiding me, she said. Yes. I admitted. A small pause. At least you're honest. Silence wrapped us. No witnesses. Just our breathing and the pulse hammering in my throat. You left, I blurted out. Softer than intended. That day, 3 months ago, her gaze didn't drop. I know, she said. I waited. I confessed. Voice raw. Regret flickered across her face, sharp, real. I stood outside your door, she said. My breath caught. What? The morning after. Her voice lowered slightly. I was going to knock. She revealed. The space between us shifted. Something fragile threading through it. Why didn't you? I asked. She let out a slow breath. Because I knew if you opened that door. She paused. I wouldn't leave. She confessed. That did something to me. Something dangerous. Because it matched exactly what I had felt. The memory of that night surged again. How her thighs had clamped around my hips, slick and desperate, nails carving lines down my back as she came with my name choked in her throat. Then, reality snapped back into place. We stood there in the hallway. Too long. Too aware. Then, footsteps sounded above us. Voices. She stepped back first. Of course she did. We should go, she said. I nodded. But for a second too long, neither of us moved. By day 2, avoiding her stopped being an option. Not because of logistics. Because of choice. At the museum, I could have stayed with Jensen's group. I didn't. I ended up with hers. Again. No one questioned it. That was the problem. It looked normal. Which made it easier. And also worse. Soon enough, our museum guide led us to the exhibits section. Students went ahead of us with Jensen and the guide, while Victoria and I brought up the rear. At one section, we both reached for the same brochure. Fingers brushed, then held. Skin on skin. Warm. Deliberate. Her thumb grazed the inside of my finger, a slow circle that sent heat pooling low in my belly. You're doing it again, she murmured. What? I said, feigning ignorance. You're pretending this isn't happening, she murmured. Maybe I'm trying to keep my job, I said, hoping to sound serious. Her eyes sharpened. Is that all this is? She asked. No, I said. Too honest. That was the first crack. And I realized that Dalton saw it. Of course he did. He didn't say anything. Not then. But later, when we regrouped. He stood a little too close. Watched a little too carefully. Carter, he said casually. You and Mrs. Hayes seem to be getting along well, he said, tone cynical. He held my gaze a second longer than necessary, then walked off. But the warning was clear. I tried to avoid Victoria from then on. And I nearly succeeded. On our third and final night, it was late in the evening when a quiet knock sounded at my door. Too late for it to be accidental. I opened the door. And there she was. No hesitation this time. Just that same look from the hotel bar. Direct. Certain. Dangerous. We need to stop this, I said immediately. She didn't move. Do you want to? She asked, voice quiet and low. The question landed harder than it should have. Because the answer was obvious. No, I whispered back. She stepped inside. Closed the door behind her. Soft click. Too familiar. The air shifted instantly. Just like before. You didn't come to breakfast, I told her again. Her expression changed. Not defensive. Like I said, I was afraid of what it meant if I did. she gently reminded me. And now? I asked. She stepped closer. Deliberate. Now I know exactly what it means. My pulse roared. You could ruin me, I whispered. So could you. Her voice lowered, but we already ruined each other, she said, hand lifting to my jaw. And, she added, I still taste you every time I close my eyes. That was it. And we remembered exactly how it felt. The memory flooded back in sharp, wet flashes, her mouth between my thighs, tongue slow and relentless. And later, her shuddering release clenching around me as she gasped my name into the dark. I should have stepped back, created distance, said something responsible. Instead, I closed the space. Her breath hitched. Sharp, needy. Our mouths clashed in that familiar, yet savage kiss. Tongues got hungry, sliding deep. Her hands yanked my shirt open, buttons scattering across the carpet. Mine shoved her coat off, found warm bare skin under the thin blouse, thumbs brushing the undersides of her breasts, gripping her hips hard, pulling her flush so our bodies aligned perfectly, heat against heat. She moaned into my mouth low, her leg hooking around my thigh. She ground against me once, slow, deliberate, her heat already soaking through fabric, the friction dragging a groan from my throat. It was like picking up a conversation we'd never actually finished. Tell me to stop, she said, voice ragged against my mouth. I didn't. She kissed harder, bit my lower lip, sucked the sting away, then soothed it with her tongue. Our clothes hit the floor in frantic layers. Her bra unhooked, fell away, breasts spilling into my hands, nipples already hard under my thumbs. My pants got kicked aside. We stumbled to the bed. She pushed me down first, straddled me. Her eyes locked on mine, and we both froze for a heartbeat, eyes burning. Then she rolled her hips harder. Once. Twice. Needy. I gently thrust up to meet her rhythm, curling inside her until she gasped. Her nails dug into my shoulders. My free hand gripping her thigh, hard enough to leave marks. She rode me like she was claiming something stolen from her for too long. Breaths ragged, names gasped between moans. Her head fell back, throat exposed. I surged up, mouth on her neck, teeth grazing her pulse, sucking a bruise there while my thumb circled her in tight, relentless strokes. She clenched around my fingers, tight, wet, trembling, each thrust pulling a broken, desperate moan from her. Come for me, I growled against her ear, voice rough. She shattered, crying my name, inner walls pulsing and fluttering around my fingers, release soaking my hand, my wrist, the sheets beneath us. The sight of her, back arched, thighs shaking, tipped me over. I ground down against her thigh, chasing my own edge until it hit. Blinding, ripping through me in waves as I came with a low, choked groan against her throat. Afterwards, sweat slick, tangled, and breathing hard. She curled into me, one leg thrown over mine, arm draped across my stomach. No rush to move. Skin still buzzing. Her heartbeat thundering against my ribs. The next morning, sunlight cut across the bed in sharp lines. I woke before her this time. Didn't leave. Her eyes opened slowly. No retreat. No pretense. Just looked at me. Soft, certain, a little wrecked in the best way. You stayed, I said, smiling. So did you. She responded, nuzzling into me. Silence settled. Reality waited outside, my job, the school, Dalton. We're not safe yet. I pointed out. I know. She pressed closer, a warm thigh sliding between mine. Have breakfast with me? She requested. I'm not disappearing this time. That landed deeper than anything else. Because that had been the wound. Not the night. The leaving. I studied her for a second. Then nodded. Okay. Outside, the trip was already starting to move again. Schedules. Students. Noise. But for a few more minutes, we didn't rush. This time, we didn't leave anything unfinished.
Liked this? Every heartbeat tells a story. Subscribe to feel it.